I was lying on that cold hospital floor, blood pooling beneath me, watching my dreams die along with my baby. My billionaire husband stood in the doorway, fixing his cufflinks like nothing happened. He thought money could bury this secret. He was wrong. Dead wrong. Before I tell you how I made this man lose everything he ever loved, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single moment of how this story ends. And stick around until the end because what happened in that courtroom will shock you. My name is Monique Thomas, and I need you to understand something right from the start. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't naive. I was a 28-year-old woman with a master's degree in art history, managing one of the most prestigious galleries in Atlanta. I had my own apartment, my own car, my own life. I didn't need saving. Or so I thought. I met Brandon Whitmore at a charity gala on a warm September evening. You know the type. Champagne flowing like water, string quartet in the corner, everyone dressed like they just stepped off a yacht. I was there representing the gallery, trying to schmooze potential donors, when he walked up to me. 6'3", custom-tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and a smile that could melt glaciers. He was 42, a real estate mogul who owned half the commercial properties downtown. Forbes had just listed him as one of the wealthiest black men in America. Billionaire status, the kind of success story our community celebrates. He told me I was the most beautiful woman in the room, not in a creepy way but genuine, like he really saw me. We talked for 3 hours straight about art, about growing up black in America, about our dreams. He listened when I spoke. Actually listened. Do you know how rare that is? By the end of the night, I had his number and a promise of dinner that weekend. The next 6 months were straight out of a fairy tale. Private jet trips to Paris, front row seats at Fashion Week, meeting Oprah at some exclusive event I can't even pronounce. He introduced me to his world like I belonged there, like I'd always belonged there. My friends were happy for me. My mama was skeptical, but even she softened when he showed up to Sunday dinner with flowers and compliments about her sweet potato pie. He proposed on a beach in Bali with a ring that could pay off student loans for a small college. We got married 3 months later in the Bahamas. 200 guests, Beyoncé's wedding planner, dressed by Vera Wang. My face was in Essence magazine. I was living the dream, right? I thought I'd finally made it. A black woman from the South Side, marrying a billionaire who looked like me, who came from nothing like me, who understood the struggle. I thought we were building a dynasty together. The mansion we moved into had 12 bedrooms, an indoor pool, and staff quarters. Staff. I had people who worked for me now. It felt surreal. But looking back, that house wasn't a home. It was a prison with marble floors and crystal chandeliers. I just didn't know it yet. The first time I felt the shift was about 2 months after the wedding. I mentioned going back to work at the gallery, just part-time, because I missed it. Brandon's face changed. It was subtle, but I saw it. That warmth in his eyes went cold for just a second. He said I didn't need to work anymore, that he took care of me now, that his wife shouldn't be working like she needs the money. He said it with a smile, but it wasn't a request. I laughed it off, thinking he was being old-fashioned, traditional. I didn't push it. Then my friends started getting screened. He'd ask questions about them. Where did they work? What did their parents do? Were they really the kind of people I should be spending time with now? He never said I couldn't see them. He was smarter than that. He just made it difficult, uncomfortable. Eventually, I saw them less and less. My phone got quieter. My world got smaller. And somehow, he was always there, filling the space, telling me he was all I needed. The first time he hit me, I was so shocked I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because my brain couldn't process what had just happened. We were arguing about me wanting to visit my mama without him. I said I needed some space, some time with just my family. He said I was being ungrateful, that I was choosing them over him after everything he'd done for me. The argument escalated, and then his hand connected with my face so fast I didn't see it coming. The slap echoed through that big empty house. I stood there, hand on my burning cheek, staring at this man I thought I knew. And you know what he did? He cried. broke down right there in the kitchen, sobbing about his stress, his pressure, how he'd never hurt me, how he didn't know what came over him. He begged me to forgive him, bought me a diamond bracelet the next day, took me to that restaurant I'd been wanting to try, promised it would never happen again, and I believed him. God help me, I believed him, but it did happen again. And again. Each time with more apologies, more gifts, more promises. The cycle became predictable. We'd have a good week, maybe 2. Then tension would build over something small, then the explosion. Then the honeymoon phase where he was the man I fell in love with again. I started walking on eggshells, monitoring my tone, my words, my face, anything to keep the peace. I stopped being me. I became whoever he needed me to be in that moment just to stay safe. I didn't tell anyone. How could I? I was married to Brandon Whitmore. We were relationship goals on social media. I had everything a woman could want. Who would believe that behind closed doors I was being terrorized? Who would care? I was ashamed. I felt like I'd failed. Like somehow this was my fault for not being enough, for not doing enough, for not loving him the right way. Then I found out I was pregnant, 12 weeks along. I took that test in the bathroom of the East Wing where he never went, and I just stared at those 2 pink lines for what felt like hours. Part of me was terrified, but another part, a part I didn't even know was still alive, felt hope. Maybe this would change things. Maybe a baby would bring back the man I married. Maybe we could be a real family. When I told Brandon, his face went red. Not happy red, angry red. He asked if I did this on purpose, if I trapped him. Those were his exact words. Did you trap me? I stood there with the positive test still in my hand, and this man, this billionaire who had everything, acted like I'd just ruined his life. He said he wasn't ready, that we hadn't planned this, that I was being selfish. Then he stormed out and didn't come home for 2 days, but he came back with baby books and apologies, said he was just scared, that he'd be a good father, that we'd figure it out together. I wanted to believe him so badly. I needed to believe him, so I did. The pregnancy made everything worse. His control intensified. He monitored what I ate, when I slept, who I talked to. He said it was because he cared about the baby, but it felt like surveillance. At 16 weeks, we had an argument about him staying out all night. I smelled perfume on his collar. When I confronted him, he pushed me. Not hard, he said, just enough to get me out of his way. But I was pregnant. I fell down 5 stairs before I caught myself on the railing. I lied to the doctor about the bruises, told her I was clumsy, that pregnancy made me off balance. She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes. But she couldn't force me to tell the truth. So she documented the injuries and let me leave with my abuser. I went home to that mansion, to that man, and pretended everything was fine. Brandon's threats became more specific. He told me no one would believe me if I said anything, that he owned half the police force through donations, that his lawyers would destroy me, that I'd end up with nothing, not even the baby, because what judge would give a child to a woman who couldn't even protect herself? He was right. I knew he was right, so I stayed quiet and prayed my baby would somehow survive this nightmare. At 24 weeks, I found hotel receipts in his jacket pocket, a hotel I knew we'd never been to together. When I searched his name online with the hotel name, gossip blogs popped up with photos of him and some woman named Gianna. They were all over each other outside the hotel bar. My husband, the father of my child, making a fool of me publicly while I carried his baby. That night, when he came home, I confronted him. I had the receipts in my hand, my phone with the photos pulled up. I wasn't yelling. I was calm. Too calm, probably. I just asked him why. Why wasn't I enough? Why would he do this while I was pregnant with his child? He told me to shut up, said I was being dramatic, that I was lucky he even came home to me, that plenty of women would kill to be in my position. I told him I wanted a divorce, that I was done, that he could have his money and his mistresses, but I was taking our baby and leaving. That's when he snapped. Really snapped. Not a slap this time, not a push. He grabbed me by my hair and slammed my head into the wall. I felt my vision blur. Then he started hitting me. Fists, not open hands, my ribs, my back, my face. I fell to the floor, and I did the only thing I could think of. I curled around my belly, trying to protect her, because by then I knew she was a girl, my daughter, Grace. I'd already named her in my head. But Brandon didn't care. He kicked me, kicked my stomach over and over while I screamed and begged him to stop, begged him to think about the baby. He said he never wanted her anyway, that I was stupid for thinking he'd be tied down to me forever because of one mistake. Those were his words. Our daughter was a mistake. Then he just stopped, fixed his clothes, fixed his hair, and walked out, left me bleeding on the cold bathroom floor. I don't know how long I laid there. Could have been minutes. Could have been an hour. Time felt strange. Eventually, I managed to crawl to where my phone had fallen, called 911, told them I needed help, that I was pregnant and bleeding, that I thought my baby was dying. The paramedics came fast. The hospital was a blur of lights and voices and hands touching me. And then the doctor's face. I'll never forget her face, the pity in her eyes when she told me they couldn't find a heartbeat, that my daughter was gone, that they'd have to induce labor to deliver her, deliver my dead baby girl. I don't remember much about those next hours, just pain, physical pain from the beating and the delivery, emotional pain that felt like it was swallowing me whole. They let me hold her afterward. She was so small, perfect little fingers, perfect little face. She looked like me. She should have been alive, should have been crying, should have been breathing. But she was still and cold, and it was Brandon's fault. He showed up at the hospital with lawyers, not to apologize, not to mourn, to control the narrative. The police came too. Standard procedure for cases like this. But Brandon had already paid them off. I could tell by how they looked at me, with suspicion instead of concern. He told them I fell, that I was clumsy, that I'd fallen down the stairs. The same lie I'd been telling for months. Except now it was his lie, and they believed him because he's Brandon Whitmore, billionaire philanthropist, and I'm just his wife. They took photos of my injuries, asked me questions, but I was so tired, so broken. I just nodded along, said I fell, confirmed his story, let him win again. The officers left, the lawyers left. And then Brandon leaned close to my hospital bed and whispered that I better keep my mouth shut if I knew what was good for me. Then he left too. I spent a week in that hospital, alone, no visitors except the nurses. My phone stayed silent. Brandon had isolated me so completely that I didn't even have anyone to call. But one nurse, Angela, she saw through everything. She'd been a domestic violence survivor herself. She recognized the signs, the injuries that didn't match the story, the fear in my eyes, the way I flinched when anyone moved too fast. Angela sat with me one night after her shift ended, told me her story, showed me her scars, and then she gave me a card for a women's shelter and the name of an attorney who specialized in cases like mine. She said I didn't have to live like this, that there was a way out, that I deserved justice for myself and my baby girl. For the first time in months, someone saw me, really saw me. Not Mrs. Brandon Whitmore, not the trophy wife, not the victim too scared to speak, but Monique, a woman who deserved to live without fear, a mother who lost her child to violence, a survivor who had the power to fight back. I made a decision in that hospital bed. Brandon was going to pay for what he did, not just to me, but to Grace. My daughter deserved justice even if she never got to take a breath. So I kept that card, memorized the number, and started planning. When I got home, I played the dutiful wife, acted like nothing changed. But everything had changed. I started documenting everything, every bruise, every threat, every text message. I took photos of myself when he wasn't looking, recorded arguments on my phone, kept a journal with dates and details of every incident. I became a detective in my own life, gathering evidence against my abuser. Then I reached out to the attorney Angela recommended, Beverly Okonkwo, a fierce black woman who'd built her career on taking down powerful men who hurt women. She believed me immediately, didn't question my story, didn't ask what I did to provoke him, just listened and started building a case. Beverly helped me find Gianna, Brandon's mistress. Turned out she wasn't just some side piece, she was another victim. Brandon had been abusing her too, and she wasn't the first. Beverly's investigators found 3 other women Brandon had dated before me. All had similar stories. All had been paid off to stay quiet. Brandon had a pattern. My case wasn't isolated, it was systemic. We worked in secret for months. Beverly got me a wire, had me document conversations with Brandon where I'd bring up what happened. At first, he'd deny it, but I learned how to push his buttons, how to make him angry enough to slip up, and one night, he did. He admitted everything, said no one would care about another dead black baby anyway, that black women like me were disposable, that he could do whatever he wanted because money meant power, and power meant immunity. I had him, on tape, in his own words, confessing to killing our daughter. Beverly filed charges, assault, fetal homicide, domestic violence. Then we went public, held a press conference where I told my story, showed my scars, spoke my daughter's name. The media went crazy. Brandon's carefully crafted image shattered overnight. Sponsors dropped him. Business partners distanced themselves. His empire started crumbling because the world finally saw him for what he was, a monster in expensive suits. The trial was brutal. His lawyers tried everything, said I was lying for money, that I was bitter about the affair, that I'd hurt myself for attention. They dragged my name through every kind of mud they could find. But I had evidence. Medical records, photos, recordings, and I had Gianna and the other women who stood up and testified about what he'd done to them too. I sat in that witness stand for 6 hours, looked the jury in the eyes and told them everything, every detail, every moment of pain, every second of fear. I told them about Grace, about how I'd already picked out her nursery colors, about how I'd felt her kick for the first time while I was reading a book about strong black women, about how her father murdered her because I dared to question his loyalty. When they played the recording of Brandon's confession, the courtroom went silent. You could hear people crying, jurors wiping their eyes, and Brandon just sat there, stone-faced, like he still thought his money would save him. It didn't. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Came back with guilty verdicts on all charges, criminal conviction, 15 years in prison, then the civil trial. Beverly sued for $250 million. The jury awarded every penny, plus court costs, plus attorney fees. I watched them handcuff Brandon right there in the courtroom, watched this man who'd controlled every aspect of my life lose control of his own. He looked at me as they led him away, probably expected me to cry or gloat or show some emotion, but I just smiled, a small, quiet smile, because Grace got her justice, and so did I. That was 3 years ago. Today, I run a foundation called Grace's Promise. We help domestic violence survivors escape their abusers. We've helped over 200 women find safety, legal representation, and new lives. I rebuilt my relationship with my mama, my friends, my family. I went back to the gallery, back to my own life, my own identity. I'm not gonna lie and say I'm completely healed. Some scars don't fade. I still have nightmares sometimes, still flinch at loud noises, still struggle with trust, but I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm using my story to help other women know they're not alone. Brandon thought his money made him untouchable. He thought being a billionaire meant he could throw away black lives, mine, our babies, like garbage. But here's what he forgot. God doesn't sleep on evil, and neither do I. If this story touched you, please share it. There's a woman right now living my nightmare who needs to know she's not alone, that there is a way out. Drop a comment if you've survived or know someone who has. Let's build a community of survivors, not victims. Subscribe for more real stories about real women taking back their power. And remember, your life is worth more than his apologies. Always. Hit that like button, share this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, queens.